coming out.
There you go.
You're not getting this signal? We tested it before, I promise. That looks good. Look at that. Now we're talking. Thanks, guys. Good to be with you guys. I like Florida, but I'm going to be tough on you. You're going down the wrong path. And I'm going to set you on the right path. Amen. Here you go. So Lou asked me to come talk about the 7 steps for taking back our elections. And I want to teach you what those 7 steps are. Usually I talk for about 2 hours. Most of you out here know that I like to talk a long time. I'm warm with my mouth. Okay. But I'm going to reduce what I normally do. Normally I show you a lot of data for your state, but this is a national meeting anyway. So I'm going to leave a lot of the data out that I usually show. I'll show just a little bit of data. I want to tell you a couple of stories. So let's just get that fixed. I put this slide in because in the program it says cause for America, but it's cause of America. And I want to make sure that you know that so you can get connected to this and get connected to us. It's Mike Lindell's organization he set up for the grassroots. So I'm so proud that lately I've been denoted the Johnny Appleseed of election integrity. I'm really happy about that. I've gone to 46 states. Many of your states I've been in. I see lots of people I know from lots of states. I've been in 800 counties now, boots on the ground. Why the heck would I do that? I joke about it. I say that Jesus didn't send emails. He went town to town, boots on the ground. And what I learned, it was a hard lesson, but I spent 2021 learning the lesson that you don't fix these problems from the top down. You fix them from the bottom up. Forgive me for coming from academics, thinking that truth and logic and evidence would work. And so when I would meet with legislators, when I would meet with secretaries of states and AGs, and I've done about 24 of each of those, and show them their elections. I'll tell you one story today, because in Louisiana, people are here today. I'll tell you one story about that. Thinking I could save the country, and I just was wrong. I just had to learn that truth and logic and evidence isn't what works from the top. What works is from the bottom up. The people have to become engaged. The people have to engage. So when someone called me, it was John Smith that asked to call me that. When I had never looked, it'd been since I was a boy, since I looked up about Johnny Appleseed. So I looked on YouTube and I found this movie of Johnny Appleseed singing the Johnny Appleseed song. You remember that? If you remember, sing with me. The Lord is good to me, and so I thank the Lord for giving me the things I need. The sun and rain and an apple seed, yet He's been good to me. Do you remember that? Remember that? That was Disney. Yep. 50 years ago, that was Disney. That was our country. Okay? That's not our country anymore. Okay? Why? Well, because we as a citizenry have forgotten our civic duties. And that's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about. The LA Times picked it up that I'm the Johnny Appleseed of election integrity. They call me the election fraud, which is fine. But California in particular is on fire. And when I first started going there last year, people were saying, where are you wasting your time in California, Dr. Frank? That place is already gone. They're already communist. You're wasting your time. You know, I've had more success in California than almost anywhere in the country. Why? Because they're already underneath the oppression of communism, and the grassroots groups are waking up, and they're already getting focused. You folks in Florida are still asleep. But anyway, in California, they are, all you have to do is come in, meet the local patriot group, point them in the right way, and bada boom, bada bing, we're succeeding everywhere we go. I had the same problem when I went to Wyoming. They were all asleep. They think that their state's all in good shape. No, it's in bad shape. They're one election cycle from being California. They just didn't know it. So as I'm going around the country, my #1 job is to wake people up. That's the first thing I do, and I show them the data, their own election data. I don't have to make anything up. I just show them their own results and their own evidence from their own voter rolls and whatnot. And you are doing that right in Florida, so I got to give kudos to Chris Drisky for helping with the FRA on that. You are doing that, but I just giving you kudos there, but I also want to point out something, and I'll show you some data on that for a minute. But anyway, so I'm always seeming to be in the right place at the right time. I helped Red Pill Tina Peters at the very beginning. You may have heard of her. If you're looking for a simple way to introduce your friends to the idea of election fraud, check out this movie, Liberty Links IO, Tina Peters. It's about what the state is doing to her. It's about an hour long. It's a great event to hold if you want to hold an event. But I bring that up just because it's a good way to introduce them to the idea of election fraud, but also because, of course, it's a perfect example to illustrate with the media, how the media characterizes us. It's funny to see myself in cartoon. After that movie, you know, I got the bald head and bow tie, that's right. I don't think my butt's that big. But you can see, you know, basically the media is characterizing us as a bunch of conspiracy people and as Tina as the victim. But at least they get this right, showing me going around the country teaching about election fraud. So that's kind of cool. They got that part right. And I am going around the country. The country's become my classroom. I'm not in Schilling anymore. And I'm having tremendous success at that. I don't meet as often with Secretaries of States, although I just met recently with the West Virginia Secretary of State. And he went on TV that night and told everybody, yeah, we have election fraud here. The thing is he does that, and I've got half a dozen at least Secretaries of States to admit that they have massive amounts of election fraud in their state. But does anything happen? No. So it doesn't, but I still do that because it gives encouragement to the grassroots. So I like doing that. I like the way CNN puts it, you know, they say, the 2020 election wasn't stolen, but Douglas Frank and his bogus equation claiming otherwise are still winning over audiences, and you better believe I am. All over the country, we are getting awake everywhere we go. It's exciting to be part of this. He already mentioned I'm a scientist, I'm a terrorist. And what got me really going is I started my work in Pennsylvania at the request of the Pennsylvania State Legislature. I did a whole bunch of work there. If I had more time, I would tell you about that. Let me just tell you one quick story. I was part of a team of 6 people in Pennsylvania, and when they certified the election in 2020, they certified it with 765,000 more ballots they counted than they had voters. That's pretty simple math. Okay, what could be wrong with that? And the other thing is that I specialized in the voter rolls in Montgomery County. That's where the 4 Supreme Court cases were from. And in that case, what I noticed is that about a month before the election, about 50,000 people were added to my county, Montgomery County, out of 500,000 people. So it's about 10% inflation of the rolls. And all those people voted. And then by the end of November, 25,000 of them were taken out of the rolls, and by the end of December, the second 25,000 were taken out. And I was confused by that. I was new to this, and gee, after all, it's a Republican majority in the legislature. They must be good. See how naive, what a rube I was, okay? But I was learning. And so I showed that to them, and I'm confused. Why are you taking these people out of the voter rolls when you just added them and they all voted? And so we asked the Secretary of State. I had subpoena power with the Secretary of State bar, and she replied one sentence: because they moved away. So review. They added 50,000 people to the rolls 1 month before the election. They all voted. Within 1 month, half of them were taken out. Within 2 months, the second half were taken out, and they all moved away. So I looked it up. They were right. They did all move away 10 years earlier. Understand? Okay? So a lot of the work I hear you guys doing these days is focused on cleaning the rolls. I don't disagree with that in principle, but it's a waste of time until you gain control of your rolls. Okay? Because you can clean your rolls, and then with one mouse click, I can make them dirty again. Okay, you see where I'm going? So you need your first objective. It's not bad that you're doing that because you're exposing that your rolls are dirty. That's good for public education. But it really has no net effect on your elections because anybody can get in and mess up your election again right before the election. Well, Mr. Lindell's found out about my work. He made a movie about me called Scientific Proof. It's about an hour long. It's a lot of fun. I encourage you to watch it. And it is Mike learning it for real, in real time. It's fun to watch him get all excited. You know, Mike doesn't get excited at all. He's going to be here tonight. He's a good guy. He took about 30 minutes of that interview and put it in a second movie as well, Absolute Interference. If you haven't seen it, that's fun. I also got to be the warm-up speaker for President Trump at his first rally. After being out of office, I got to explain all this stuff to the whole country. And I remember, doing that talk. I felt like when I walked up to the microphone that I was wasting my time, because these people had been, 21,000 people had been standing there for 6 hours in the hot sun, drinking beer and listening to rock and roll at a Trump rally. And I thought, I'm just going to try to teach these people math. What a waste of time. But I remember as I began explaining the mathematics that I had discovered that was manipulating our elections, it was like the best math class of my life. They were totally engaged. The whole crowd was going, ooh, ah, ooh. It was totally awesome. And the next day they made memes about me. So, I promise not to do a lot of math today. Today I'm going to tell you a couple of stories because it's the fastest way to get the information to you. I hit the button. Here we go. Good. So some of you might have met me because I was the MC for Mr. Lindell's Cyber Symposium, and then last year at the Trial of the Machines, I had the Moment of Truth, and then he just had the new event, and I'm going to let him talk about that stuff tonight. He's going to be here, so let's let him talk about that. If you haven't seen those events, you can still see them. They're on LindellTV.com and FrankSpeech.com. They're free. No, Frank Speech is not named after me. This is how to follow me if you want to follow me. My email is not shown very clearly on the bottom there, drdouglasgfrank@outlook.com. Feel free to contact me. I'm pretty booked, but I'm happy to come talk to your community because I think the solution is from the bottom up. Let me come talk to you. Luckily, I don't charge anything. I always tell people I'm booked way in advance. It's either because I'm cheap or I'm good. Okay. All right, so let's go. What's next? I want to tell you a story. So I was in Wisconsin recently. And I was speaking in a tavern. I love speaking in taverns because people are in a good mood. It's about a 2-hour talk or so, about 200 people. And at the beginning of the talk, right at the center aisle, people kind of formed a line. They want to take selfies and ask me questions. That's fun. I enjoy that. This lovely old elder couple came up to me, and the lady said, Dr. Frank, may we pray for you? I said, well, sure. I love when people pray for me. So she laid hands on me, and her husband laid hands on me, and they started praying. And little did I know this lady was a prayer. She started working up a lather. She got louder and louder and louder as she was praying. As her volume went up, the volume in the tavern came down, and everybody started listening. People started joining in. It turned into like a prayer meeting. It was awesome. It's a wonderful, wonderful moment, After about 5 minutes, she starts to wrap it up, and she's saying, and thank you, Lord, for giving us Dr. Frank, and that he's fighting for truth and justice against the election fraud of Goliath. The Lord, we just thank you for giving him such a big slingshot to fight Goliath with. And Lord, we just pray that you'll give him really big stones. And she kept on praying. And of course, we're in a tavern, right? So everybody is in a good mood. But nobody wanted to laugh out loud because she's really praying, right? And so she finally wraps up the prayer, she opens her eyes, and everybody's got a funny look on her face because we're trying not to laugh, right? And she looks at me bewilderedly, and she said, and I just looked down and I said, you just asked God to give me really big stones. And the whole place burst into laughter, and she turned red as a tomato, and she's like, oh. It was the sweetest, most beautiful, innocent moment ever. It was lovely. But as we were driving home afterwards, I realized she was right. She was right. Think about the story about David and Goliath. David did not go to the battlefield to fight Goliath. He went to the battlefield to bring his brothers lunch. And when he got there, he said he saw this big oaf insulting their God. And he said, hey guys, get out there and take care of business. The problem wasn't Goliath. The problem was the children of Israel were hiding in the hills. That was the problem, okay? So he goes to his brothers and he says, hey guys, get out there and take care of business. What did they tell him? Go take care of the sheep. But he didn't listen. He went out, he stood in front of Goliath, he says, this is a battle between good and evil. You're insulting our God. Today, God's going to deliver you in my hands. And he slew Goliath, right? And then after he cut Goliath's head off, what happened? Then the children of Israel chased the Philistines out of the land. You guys are the Davids. You have to be the ones who stand. Because if you don't stand, nobody's going to stand. And then guess what? The people aren't going to wake up and chase the Philistines out of the land. Now's the time for this, okay? It's got to be now or never. You guys got to have stones. Okay. It's kind of weird. And I know it's a scary thing. Elections are a tough thing. Look how big Goliath was versus David. That's a big difference. It seems unsurmountable. But I just want to tell you, it's not your battle. It's God's battle. Your job is to stand and fight. Okay?
Amen.
All right. So I want to change the way you think. I want to change the way you think about things. Because I've had to change the way I think about things. And about our country. And about it's your country. It's our country. About your relationship. I've had to change the way I think. And all around the country, I find people are upside down. They're not thinking about this correctly. Your churches, our communities, they're upside down. And until you change the way you're living in them, we're going to be stuck. Okay, so I want to change the way you're thinking about this. Now, I'm speaking to a group of politically active people, so you're already engaging, but this is what the bulk of the people think. You know, my whole career, my whole academic career, all my colleagues told me, stay out of politics. That's messy, yucky stuff. But Plato said one of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is you end up being governed by your inferiors. And that's not just intellectually, that's morally and ethically. And you watch what's happening because of COVID and whatnot. Look at all the moms that are waking up across the country and engaging. This is a big deal. In other words, why aren't those moms already in charge of our school boards? Because we've been asleep, okay? We are waking up. So we have to be waking up as a country, and we need to be engaging politics. You know, what's happened is taken us decades, right? Decades sleeping in the pot. We've become apathetic and complacent. We got to wake up, choose the red pill. We're steadily and incrementally losing our liberty. Trevor Loudon, I was just with him a couple months ago in California. He said we're in the midst of a Marxist revolution that's 80% complete. He's right on the money. And he showed historically how if we don't engage the battle now, history teaches us we're going to lose it. So we have to engage. It's now or never. You know, it sounds so trite. This is the most important election in history, blah, blah, blah. Sounds so trite, but I'm not even waiting for the election. If you're waiting for the election, you're screwed up. You got to do it right now. We have to engage today. We're not waiting for the election. All right. Another thing that's happening all around the country is churches are waking up. I'm so excited to see churches teaching biblical citizenship and waking up and engaging. There are a lot of churches that say, oh, we don't want to host you, Dr. Frank, as a 501c3. I'm not political. I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm talking about freedom. I'm talking about America. I'm not talking about politics. But they're still afraid. So anyways, I just spoke last weekend, I think maybe it's 2 weekends ago, at the California GOP, at the Salt and Light Council. That's a big deal. So if your church isn't engaged, get engaged. It's super important. All right. This is how you know you're upside down. If when Antifa comes to town, you want to call the sheriff, you're upside down. You're supposed to be calling your neighbors, getting your rifle, and meeting Antifa.
Wow.
In the street. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
Dr. Frank.
And I didn't learn that lesson myself. I've been in a dozen counties where they did exactly this. Here's an example from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And the leader explained the situation. He said, Antifa pulled into town, and when the guy got off the bus, the leader, he said, you know, we believe in the First Amendment. You guys go ahead. We'll all listen. You can have your say. But the first window that breaks, we open fire. And was there any violence? No. Okay. And on all the counties where I've heard the same story, about a dozen counties that I've been in so far that did this, not one lick of violence. Where's the violence? Where the people didn't show up with their weapons. Okay. Here's the point. You're supposed to be defending yourself. You're supposed to be being the government. That's what the Second Amendment is all about. If you're calling the sheriff, you're upside down. It's supposed to be you. And guess what? If your elections are messed up, you're calling your government. It's supposed to be you. You're supposed to be fixing it. We're all upside down, so that's why I'm here to wake you up. Stop going to your Secretary of State. Stop going to your legislature. Stop going to your governor. They aren't going to fix it. You know how I know? I already talked to them. They ain't going to do it, okay? I hacked into their elections right in front of their faces. They already know they're not going to fix it. You have to fix it. You have to start being the government. That's what I'm here. So I'm here to change your mind, change the way you think a little bit about it. America is experimenting in self-government. We're losing that experiment, by the way. We have to rekindle that idea that we're the government, we're the sovereigns. Nobody's coming to save us. We're the people we're waiting for. Okay, it's us. It's us now or never. It's that simple. Okay. Now, elections. What's happened to our elections? This simple slide, I love it. It's in the Capitol building of Wisconsin. It's 100 years old. It's a mosaic. It's in their dome. You can tell it's in their dome. It's a picture of Lady Liberty. Look at the arms on that lady. Okay. One hand, she's pointing towards heaven because that's the source of our liberty. That's the inspiration of our liberty. But look what she's doing with her other arm. She's protecting the ballot box because that's how we protect our liberty. And for too many decades, we've been letting other people teach our children. For too many decades, we've been letting other people run our government. For too long, we've been letting other people run our elections. We need to be running our own elections locally ourselves. What did Stalin say? Doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the votes. Who's counting your votes? Is it you?
No.
Oh, guess what? See the problem?
Yes,
you need to be protecting the ballot box. You need to be counting your own votes. Until we do, we're in trouble. Now, I got to tell you, I've been in a lot of states, 46 of them now. I've analyzed in detail 3,000 counties worth of data and the voter rolls. And in every state in the country, the elections are now centrally controlled by the state. They're no longer being run by the counties. Most county clerks don't even realize they're out of control of their elections. And one of the first things I do is when I meet with local clerks is just teach them how they're not in control of their own election. I'll give you an example of that. I already told you about what Stalin said. What matters is who counts the votes. So in the end, to take back our country, we're going to have to get rid of the machines. We're going to have to perform our elections with our own two hands and our own 2 feet. I love hearing the super moms that just told us about the grooming of the kids. And they've got a law they want to pass. Guess what? It comes down to an election, doesn't it? Because guess what? They're going to have a vote in the legislature on the law. And guess what? You have to elect the right legislators to get it to happen. And I got to tell you, it doesn't look good. There isn't one good legislature left in our country. Not one. I'm going to show you the most conservative one here in a second. You'll understand what I mean by that. It's justified. So it's one thing to say we need to take back our elections, another thing to actually, how do you do it? And that's what I've been doing. I've been going around the country teaching these people, everybody, these 7 steps. Taking back our elections. And it's not like I just sat down one day and said, use my pipe in front of the fireplace and figure it out. This is hard-won, hard-learned wisdom from the grassroots around the country. What's working, what's not. All right, so the key principle is education is key. You need to know what's wrong so you know how to fix it, but the fix is local. Don't try to fix your state, fix your city, fix your county. Start from the bottom up, that's the solution. All right. I have a trifold that explains this. I just made sure it was on my social media pages today. You're welcome to download it, but the trifold basically summarizes the 7 steps. First step is to get connected. That way you don't repeat all the dumb mistakes everybody else has made. Second step is to get organized. You need a team because you're going to be building a movement. You don't win with evidence, you win with the movement. Third step, you make a local plan that fits your local situation. It's like playing a game of chess everywhere you go. There's a different strategy. You got to implement that plan. Shasta County, California, we won there. They've gone completely back to paper poll books, paper ballots, hand-marked paper ballots, hand-counted, hand-tallied, hand-reported. Why is that important? Because it puts them in control. If they're not electronic, nobody else can tinker with their election. They're in control of their own election. That's a year's worth of work. We built a movement to accomplish that. And if I had more time, I'd teach you more about that. Reviewing progress, this is super important. A lot of people think they've found election fraud. A lot of people think they've got the right strategy, and they rush to meet with their Secretary of State. They rush to meet with their DA, et cetera, et cetera. Please don't do that. Talk to other people that have been in the movement for a while. to get peer reviewed. Somebody who's on your side will make sure that whatever you do in public has credibility. I can't tell you how many movements go flat because people want the glory and they rush out into the media and destroy it before we even get off the ground. So get somebody to look at you locally, and then local empowerment results, and there's various strategies for that, but that's basically kind of it in a nutshell. If I had more time, I can tell you more about it. There's a longer version of this on Frank's speech, because I just gave a longer version of it at Mike's symposium, and on Frank's speech, 7 steps taking back our country. All right, canvassing is a big part of that. When you're doing canvassing, you're doing evangelism. What do I mean by that? You have a list of all the people in the voter rolls, and you say, okay, it says here in the voter rolls, 5 people live here, and 4 of them voted. Is that right, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Mr. and Mrs. Smith look at it and say, well, it's just me and Mom. Who are these other people? And what happens when you do that is those people that live at that residence now believe in election fraud, because you just showed them fraud is happening from their own house. And they tell everybody in their neighborhood, so that's evangelism. And then you are also now motivated. The second thing that happens, you're motivated because you found it yourself. It's not like, what did Dr. Frank say? What did Mr. Lindell say? No, you found it yourself. It's real. You tell your friends at work. It's like you got saved. You have to tell everybody. And then the third thing is you make a pile of this evidence. You get it reviewed by people who know what they're doing, and now you're empowered as a community, and that's how we wanted Shasta. So canvassing is a big part of it early on. I mentioned Shasta County already, so I'll just skip over that. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story because it's, keep going. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Oh, you want me to wrap it up? Okay. All right.
One more?
All right. I'm going to tell you a quick story because it saves some 20 slides or so. I'll leave the data out. You can see my other slides about data. So I got invited to be one of the keynote speakers at the LA GOP last year, Louisiana GOP. Some of you are from Louisiana out there. I see you over there. And they were there, and they saw this happen. And what happened is Kyler Glenn opened up the conference that night with, he's the Secretary of State, and he talked about how great the elections were in that state, how perfect they were, how successful they were, and how they were the gold standard in the country for about 30 minutes, something like that. And there was a standing ovation and thunderous applause. And then I was next. And I outlined all the things that were wrong with their elections and the fraud we were finding already, et cetera, et cetera. And so you can imagine what Saturday was like at the GOP, all the breakout meetings. People were just, well, gee, who's right? Is Dr. Frank right? Or is Kyler Glenn right? So a group of local citizens, some of them here, arranged a private meeting with me and Kyler Glenn all day Sunday. I spent about the first 3 hours just teaching him about his own elections. Most of the secretaries of state don't understand their own elections, okay? I have to teach them. Most of the secretaries of state see that as just like a step ladder to being governor and stuff. They don't even understand their own elections. They know how to campaign, but they don't understand how elections work. So I taught him, and then as we were moving to the dining room table, he says to me, hey, Dr. Frank, I understand all you're teaching me, but in order for the fraud to happen, you'd have to have access to our voter rolls. And you'd have to have access to our election equipment. I said, yeah. He says, that can't happen. We're the gold standard in the country. He says, I even have an app on my cell phone that tells me in real time if there's any funny business on any of our election networks. You're supposed to laugh. And so I said, well, speaking of cell phones, I set the cell phone right down in between us on the dining room table. There are people who witnessed this. And I called my friend. Within about 30 seconds, we told him his own username and password from his computer at work at the Capitol. We downloaded all the usernames and passwords for all the parishes. They don't have counties, they have parishes in Louisiana. And for about the next 25 minutes, we just logged in one after another into his systems all over the state. We could change anything we wanted. We could add ballots, we could remove ballots. Finally, after about 25 minutes, he's like, I give, you know, and there's a more dramatic way to describe that. But basically, he surrendered. And what are we going to do about it, Dr. Frank? And I said, well, long story short, he agrees he's going to decertify all the machines in the state for 2022 election, yes?
22.
He agreed he was going to decertify all the machines for the 2022 election, okay? I called Mike Lindell, who's going to be here tonight, and I said, hey, Mike, I'm sitting here with Kyle Arduino, Secretary of State of Louisiana, and he says he's going to decertify all the machines for the 2022 election. And Mike's like, wait a minute, looking good, I knew you would. You know, that's what Mike always says. Right? The next week, he flew down and testified before their legislature. Sorry, I didn't hit too many buttons. But come on. There we go. He testified before the legislature to encourage them to go down the all-paper route and that he would help them and everything. Well, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, 4 weeks go by, and Kyle Ardoin never owned up to his commitment to us.
Shocking.
On his deal. And he stopped answering our emails and stopped answering our phone calls. And the election came and went the old-fashioned way with all the machines and everything. And so the group of local citizens were unhappy about it. And they collected affidavits, they organized it, they began following into press conferences and asking, hey, how come you didn't certify the election? You committed, you sat down with Dr. Frank, hacked in the election, and you committed you were going to decertify the elections. What happened? He denied the whole thing. So the citizens, they formed affidavits, they began meeting with him, they began hounding him, public conference after public conference, and finally he agreed he's going to quit. I love that story because it teaches you 4 things. And this is kind of a good summary since they want me to wrap up, and I will wrap it up. 4 things. The first thing is, they know. They ain't going to fix it. Don't think you're going to find evidence and run your Secretary of State or your legislature and get them to fix it. Ain't going to happen. I've already done that. Okay? They like it this way. Your Republican Party likes it this way. That's important for you to know. The next thing is I'm a catalyst, I'm a troublemaker, I make things happen. But nothing happens unless what? The citizens stepped up. So I come to town, I make trouble, but nothing happens unless the people respond after that. That's where the action really happens. All right, so I gotta wrap this up. So Lou especially asked me to do this, so I gotta do it. I'm a physicist, right? So I just have to show you every single state in this country. I was going to show you Wyoming, I just ran out of time. Wyoming, they're dominated by rhinos too. They're the most conservative in the country. They have 8 out of 9 people registered Republican. So don't feel bad, Florida. You're just among the worst. So here's where I'm going with this. This aluminum rod represents America. And I've been going around the country spreading the truth. Not just me, other people. Seth is here. He's been doing it too. And as I'm spreading the truth is resonating. And it's getting loud. We have counties around the country that are flipping. They're going back to all paper. About 30, maybe 35 by now. And some more votes every week happening. They're taking back control of their elections. But how is that happening?
We the people.
Because we're spreading the truth and it's resonating. The truth is annoying. And you have to be annoying.
Oh God.
You have to be David.
Oh yes.
Annoying Goliath. Annoying your brothers. You have to go to your neighbors and say, you know, our voter rolls in Florida are a wreck.
Yes.
Jersey's been showing us our voter rolls are a wreck. And they're full of people who aren't real voters, and they cast ballots.
Yeah.
That's annoying, okay? You have to tell your friends, in every state in America, the voter rolls are growing faster than the population. In every state in America, our states are controlling our elections, not locally controlled. And we're not going to succeed unless we take back our own elections at the county level. I see your fingers in your ears. It's annoying, yes? You have to be annoying. And you notice I can make this pretty loud.
Yeah.
I'm kind of holding back. Okay? And I'm already annoying you, yes? I can make this really loud. I can make it almost unbearably loud in here. And you need to make the truth unbearably loud as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Frank.
Dr. Frank.
Now wait, don't run away, because I have a question. And we will do, even though Doc went heavy, it was so intriguing, right? You got Q&A for him? You want to do some Q&A? Okay. First of all, that's just a solid piece of aluminum.
Yeah.
And you put a little resin on your hand and just...
Yeah, it's like a wine glass. You can make it resonate.
Right. I've done that with the wine glass. I've never done that with a piece of aluminum.
Oh, yeah. I'm a physics teacher, forgive me.
Very cool. All right, Q&A. We're only doing this for 5 minutes, so you got questions, get your hands up. Because when 5's over, we're done. We got to keep...
Johnny Morgan from California.
Oh, right in front.
Which county, brother?
Los Angeles.
Oh,
sorry.
That's where the Smartmatic case is.
Okay.
Item in that one, go ahead.
So what do we do after we discovered this fraud and they don't do anything?
Wait a minute. They don't do anything?
Yeah,
Wait a minute. They don't do anything? See, you're upside down. You're the government. Be the government.
What do we do?
Well, what we did in Shasta County is we basically used all of our First Amendment rights so that we fight the First Amendment battle so we don't have to fight the Second Amendment battle. Now, the first thing is read the 7 steps so you know what steps to do. But in a nutshell, you have to be the government. You do the investigations, you do the prosecutions, and you make their lives miserable who are in charge of your elections. What do I mean? You super moms are amazing. You get out your picket signs, you picket them in front of their houses, you picket them in front of their offices, you follow them to the grocery store, you follow them to their schools when they're dropping their children off. And you
Start acting like Democrats.
Yeah.
They do this
exactly.
stuff all the time. Maxine Waters stood up in her district in LA and said, when you see MAGA Republicans, get in their face, tell them they're not welcome. Guess what?
Yes,
We're
sir.
so peace-loving, good Christians. We're like, we wouldn't do that. Look where the hell we're at by not doing it.
You gotta be annoying.
Start doing it.
You gotta be annoying.
We're not saying get violent. We're not saying make threats. Of course not. That's what those assholes on that side do. What we're saying is, like the good doctor, get in their faces. Hey, you know the voter rolls are corrupt. Go to where they're at dinner. Stand out front, protest them. That's your God-given, constitutionally protected right. Next question.
Hi, Mona Graham, Sacramento County,
Been
California.
there.
Dr. Frank, you're talking about Shasta County, and I know everything that went on there.
Yeah.
But our governors retaliated in
Yeah.
Shasta County and now signed a law that's going to fine them for going to hand count. Do you know where that stands now? Are they bringing a suit against California? What's Shasta doing?
I can hardly wait for the lawsuit, yes. So what happened is we found fraud in Shasta, we got organized, when you're in a war, you don't just pick up your machine gun and run towards the enemy. You get down, you have a war council, you plan a strategy, you implement the strategy. That's part of the 7 steps. It took us about a year in Shasta County. In Shasta County, we have an important asset. We have the sheriff of Shasta County. And we brought him in right from the beginning. He knows that everything is real because we've shown it to him, actual dead people who vote, that sort of thing. And think about it. The sheriff has more constitutional authority than any other person in the United States in their county. So if the state comes in and says, well, you have to do this and you have to do that, the county can just say, guess what? The sheriff can just say, you can say whatever you want, but I got the keys to the building. And so you can hold your election the way you want to hold it. So it's going to be a fight. Don't expect them to just roll over and give it up. This is a war. Okay, it's a fight, but the whole state's going radioactive, and you have 4 more counties just about to go.
All right, 2 more. I see a guy there. And we got one in the back. Go.
Yeah, this is short. Most people know me, probably tired of hearing this. Don't lean on the shovel and pray for a hole.
Don't lean on the shelf and pray for a
Don't lean on a shovel and pray for a hole. Dig the damn hole.
Oh, gotcha.
That's what he's saying. Dig the damn hole. Do the work. Your question.
Exactly, yeah.
Hi, Nick Cooper from the notorious Fulton County, Georgia.
Been there.
Oh.
I was just there a couple weeks ago.
So if you're able to hack into
Yes.
county websites,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that means that the computer hackers at the CIA are able to do that.
High school level hackers can do it.
So does that mean that our elections are potentially being swayed by our intelligence agencies?
It can be potentially swayed by a high school student. If that's true, then the CIA certainly could do that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, last one in the back.
Yes, Dr. Frank, we've been very busy in the state of Florida. We have convened, we've requested that 2 grand juries be convened. They are in session right now. We saw what a corrupt grand jury in Fulton County can do. It can get a president arrested. Would you be willing to testify with your expertise before our grand jury regarding election fraud?
Of course. And I want you to know that after I did Pennsylvania, Florida was the next state I did. Because I can download your rolls in real time and for free, and I was looking for a quick way to get a bunch of data, and I contacted the Secretary of State's office and showed them everything. I showed the governor's office everything. I was down in Mar-a-Lago showing the president everything. Anything happen in your state? Oh, same as everywhere else. So I would be delighted though to testify, and I don't charge, just pay for my plane ticket, I'll be there. Okay? Yep.
Dr. Frank, thank you so much. That was amazing. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so next up, folks, and this one, I'll tell you, I'm excited about hosting this roundtable because this is stuff that